Hola, I'm going to show you today an alternative way for managing infrastructure with GitHub Actions. I remember those days when you get started with AWS, you click around and you got something up and running. It felt amazing, right? But then you learn infrastructure as code and infrastructure as code, everything. And then you have another problem when you got a centralized team trying to orchestrate and have complex CI pipelines. But there is a simple way. I'll show you to use GitHub Action as a composition layer, making DevOps more accessible for everyone in the team. Let's start with the problem we're trying to solve. Cloud management has evolved through several phases. Every company starts with a single AWS account, with a single application, managed by a single person. It's easy to get started, but it becomes unmanageable as you grow. The infrastructure as code with tools like Terraform allow you to be more consistent, but with a step learning curve that becomes harder to manage when more teams join. Then comes a centralized platform team that is in charge of owning all the infrastructure across the organization. But even these modern approaches, we face challenge awkward coupling between application and infrastructure code, complex environment variables management, knowledge gaps between application developers and infrastructure specialists, high learning curve for tools like Terraform, managing more and long-term testing environments. They end up creating bottlenecks that put projects in rest. Let me show you a real example of these challenges. Growing companies often split the responsibilities between platform, who handle infrastructure as code, and domain teams, who handle application code. This vision creates coordination overhead and slows down development. When a new service is required, they have to submit a request to the infrastructure team to create the initial provisioning, and later they can just deploy on top of it. What if there is a better way? Instead of managing this separation, what if we brought this infrastructure control back to the application repository, but made it simple enough for developers to use? GitHub Actions give us a powerful way to compose workflows with just a few lines of YAML file. Let me show you. In this example, we are provisioning a whole website. Under the hood, this is plain Terraform. So the platform team is in control of how that infrastructure is going to be provisioned. With just 15 lines of YAML, we have the infrastructure pipeline ready to be deployed. That's not all. We could continue to use this flexibility to add ephemeral environments. By just adding a parameter as an input of the action, we can create two completely independent environments. Let's go and see how a full-fledged web service would look like. Now, this example is using CloudFormation, so that's why the setup step is not there. We are creating a Docker image and pushing that to ECR, and then we're creating a full ECS infrastructure with Cognito in just a single action. Now, let's talk about the benefits. Infra GitHub Action is developer-friendly. They like working in GitHub, and we're just providing yet another capability at their disposal. It's self-serve. They don't need to go ask for permission or submit a request. And the platform team still continues to have the governance over the resources that are provisioned. Now, let me show you a demo. This repo is a mono repo. It contains a backend and a frontend. The basic CI/CD functionality. The backend is a Node.js Express app that can be run in Lambda. And the frontend is a React app. It has these features. You have a sandbox. When you open a PR, you get an ephemeral environment on that PR specifically. And then when you push, it's going to deploy to all the production environments. If we go to PRB, we change the style, and we go to deployment, we add a whole new infrastructure. And the beauty of this is that when you merge, when you close, that infrastructure goes away. It's cost effective. Infrastructure at GitHub Actions provide a new way to think about infrastructure provisioning. It brings simplicity of GitHub Actions to the complex infrastructure management. This approach works especially well for startups without dedicated platform teams, organizations looking to improve developer ownership, teams wanting to standardize infrastructure patterns. I'd love to hear from you and your infrastructure management approach. Are you using traditional infrastructure as code, exploring new patterns like this, or something completely different? Share your experience down in the comments below. Adios.